Firstly, I never considered myself political. A concerned citizen, maybe. I don't think anyone in the band's voted, not that I know of anyway. Maybe they have, but it's pretty unlikely. So the issues that we cover are issues that concern the average citizen, wherever they may live, you know. And as far as, you know, how the record landed, it's just as the record landed. Let me give you an example. Because Killing Joke never seems to prepare or write anything before going in the studio. And in fact, we did on this album. We wrote 7 songs, 2 of which ended up on the album, and the other 10 are jams. So as you're listening to this new record, you're hearing the songs being written as well as being recorded at the same time. And so we're quite different as far as that's concerned. You know, in a way, it's a waste of time preparing anything for Killing Joke, looking back at all the records that we've done. Because as soon as you get in the studio, it's all smashed to bits and it ends up completely different. So it's a spontaneous expression. People think that we sort of preconceived this record to sound like this. There was none of that. That's just the way it landed, in short.
But with that said, you also told me you prepared 7 songs before going in.
Yeah, and two of those songs ended up on the record.
Knowing that you're usually unprepared, what made you decide, okay, we're going to try to write something before we get there?
Well, the 2 songs that that we wrote. Yeah. Yeah.
So jam regardless of whether you got a record coming up, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And of course, he proved to be right this time round, just to jam the new songs instead of use the songs that were written. It kind of works out well. There's a spontaneity to the whole process of creating with Killing Joke that you don't get if you try and prepare it. And if you do try and prepare something, it goes through the mincer and it ends up completely different. No, he had to undergo the same sort of trauma as all of us. Is like when we're in the studio, that's when it all happens, and that's exactly what happened.
Everyone has to go through equal.
Yeah, it's interesting, Paul's situation, because Paul, in his own words, he said that he went through a quarter of a century of psychologists to get over Killing Joke, and then of course he's back in Killing Joke, you know, and it's been great having Paul back. Especially intellectually, back in the band as well. Yeah, and so of course you can see from our perspective, to have Youth and Big Paul there, and I mean we were there when we were teenagers together, and so you're forced to sort of reflect on this huge passage of time of 32 years. And you realise, well, what a journey it's been, and what a journey it has been. I wouldn't have expected half of the things that happened to happen, and I could say, yeah, it's a great feeling to be in Killing Joke. For me, it's a great privilege to be in Killing Joke. It's a great honour. I've by chance had many awards and things in my life, but none is as great as being in this band. Yeah, for me, you know, the respect that goes with being in Killing Joke. Everywhere you go, it's an honour. Hi, Paul. How are you? Chaos as always. Good to see you. Yeah, good. Everything well? Yeah. Well, you know, firstly, the original lineup has been together since 2008, and really, Paul just rejoined the family. Not that he ever really left, but he just came back to us because Youth had been there on and off, been playing with us. I'd swapped between Youth and Raven, and then of course Raven stepped into the other world, and then there was Youth. And yeah, and well, let's put it like this: since '82, because Youth was the first to leave in '82, and Raven joined then. But since '82, we always knew that the original lineup would get back together at some point in the future. And I didn't expect it to be this soon, to be perfectly frank. And if it wasn't for Paul's departure, maybe it wouldn't have happened so soon. There is a difference, and you can see that difference when you go from the US into Canada. You don't have to go over the pond. The difference between a kind of European audience and an American audience. You just have to go over to Toronto to see the difference, because it's very much like a European audience. How do I describe it? Well, look, everyone goes apeshit pretty much the same way everywhere, right? You know, when it kicks off. But it is special in Europe, of course. We've done a lot of time there. Oh, it's good, great here. I mean, look, we've played almost every year, not every year, but since 1980, we've been pretty regular around the States, and the same with Europe, really. You know, if anything, we've done the States more than we've done Germany, which we played less recently, and which they keep saying we want more of a Killing Joke over there, and so there is a difference. But generally speaking, there's one thing you can kind of ascertain about a Killing Joke audience is it's a very different atmosphere, a Killing Joke audience, to any other group, and I think that is because of the kind of level of consciousness in our audience. Someone said to me 2 weeks ago, the greatest thing about Killing Joke is its audience, the gatherers, and I thought that was really cool, and I would tend to agree. If you just approach anyone you know who's really into Killing Joke, or indeed a stranger with a Killing Joke t-shirt on, and you tap them on the shoulder and start talking to them, more often than not, you'll find that they're very intelligent, very well informed, and they will lead you on to some other kind of inspiration. And so you should try this test. And what I'm saying is, when all those people get together in one place, it's not just a gig, it's a kind of a grouping of like-minded individuals. And if you compare our audience to any other band, you know, let's have a look, like a U2 audience, which I think are, generally speaking, cretinous. And our audience, well, I'm very happy with what we got. Let's put it like this.
I've heard someone once liken it to a pagan gathering.
It is. It's very ceremonial, Killing Joke. The whole thing is ceremonial for us as well as for the audience, I think. Yeah, I think it's something that we really need now. Like in the climate of tension, of economic uncertainty, and when people are worried about wars and career kicking off, and for some reason that you can come to a Killing Joke concert and discover a deep sense of peace with our music. For some reason, it has this kind of knock-on effect. After a concert, I always feel like I've been bathed in fire, and I feel spiritually good, you know. And I went through a sort of phase where I asked myself the question, Killing Joke, is it a force for good? And it is a force for good. I think that only good things have ever come from Killing Joke, and we've only ever had a positive effect on people. Otherwise, I don't think we'd have continued it for 32 years.